started, तब यहाँ शुरू हो जाएगा आपका। आपका 30
मैसेजेस
सेकंड
कहाँ
लेट
पे
आएगा।
आएंगे? मैसेजेस कहाँ पे आएंगे? इसको क्रॉस करो।
हाँ, ये यहाँ से क्रॉस कर दो, कोई चक्कर नहीं। हेलो गूगल जाके आप शुरू कर दो। इसको आगे रखना, वहीं चाहे रख लो आप। कर दिया, you can start.
Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to Quantifiers. So welcome to the another interesting session from the VARC section on Parajumbles. So how many of you really feel scared when you hear the terms of Parajumbles or sentence rearrangement? I mean, like, you believe कि यार ये तो हमसे नहीं होने वाला है. So how many of you believe or falls under that category who believe कि हमसे तो नहीं होने वाला है ये Parajumbles? There will be a lot of you, I'm sure. Right? So how many of you are scared of Parajumbles and believe this is not my cup of tea? Is it? Right? So a lot of you, yes, a lot of you believe this, that it's a tricky topic. So indeed, yes, I wouldn't call it as a tricky topic, but yes, the accuracy is actually paramount here in this topic because a lot of permutations and combinations. So in case if the CAT question setter, they are giving us, let's say, 4 sentences also, then the probability of the correct answer is 1:4 factorial, right? So that is the case that out of, you can say, 24, there are the ways, like there are the 24 ways that I can actually rearrange the 4 sentences, and out of which the probability of the correct answer is only 1. Okay, so that makes this parajumble slightly tricky. So we're going to understand parajumbles in a very light note today by doing a lot of videos and the other things, and we're going to understand the concept. So I hope that you're going to enjoy the session. So let's get into this concept, right? Okay, so right, so there seems to be some, yeah, am I audible?
So, next.
Okay, so let's understand the parajumbles in more detail. So it's a very common question types in test. Okay, indeed, I would say that the next to the RC, the parajumbles is actually the topic which is being asked consistently in lot many competitive exams. So when we say parajumbles, it is not only for the CAT that we are preparing parajumbles for. So we are preparing parajumbles for our OMATs also, and MAT test you on this. SNAP also sometimes give you questions on parajumbles. That gives you the question, and not in fact this, even in case if you're aspiring to get into SSC or your bank PO, this remains a very important topic, right? Now, what happens in the parajumbles, this is for the first students who are, let's say, going through this topic of the parajumble for the very first time, right? So what happens is that the sentences are not in the right order, okay? So I mean, like, they're going to randomly write anything. He's my favorite student. Mohan is the student of my class. Okay, so he's also student of my class. He is also good in sports, right? So you can see here that in case if you're going to read the sentence from 1 to 3, they're not conveying any logical sense to you. So he's my favorite student. The next question is, who is he, right? So what we need to do in the topic of the parajumbles or the sentence rearrangement is that we need to rearrange these sentences so they become a coherent passage. So maybe in case for this easy lot, the two maybe start the sentence, and after that maybe first and then you can put the three sentences. So this is this topic of parajumble. So I hope you got a rough of an idea about how to go about the parajumbles, right? And what are the kind of how does the parajumble questions looks like, right? Now you have to rearrange the sentence, and just like your RCs, there will be a lot of diverse reading when it comes to the parajumbles. Okay, so it's not necessary that it will going to come from the topic of your interest area. So again, we need to understand that how the parajumble questions are created by the question setter. So question setter, you know that this is a passage. Now the passage can be from anywhere, right? It can be a Guardian, New York Times, your Aeonesis. They can pick up any particular article from anywhere, and one article is divided into various paragraphs. Okay, so sometimes the question setter may pick up a second paragraph and jumble up the sentences of the second paragraph. Sometimes the question setter can pick up the last line of the first paragraph and a couple of other sentences from the second paragraph. So this is what is being done by the question setter to set the difficulty level of the paper. Okay, to set the difficulty level of this particular topic, I would say, rather, right? So that is the case. So it can have an abrupt start. Okay, so it's not like necessary that it needs to have a proper start. So sometimes you can see a couple of questions on parajumbles which is just starting with the pronouns like he, and after reading all the four sentences also you're not able to figure out who is the he. Okay, so that is because of this case, because it is to the left, to the whims of the question setter, that is he acting as a good question setter or is he a bad question setter, a devil question setter, I would say. Okay, so this is how parajumbles are created. The understanding of how parajumbles are created will definitely going to help you how to actually solve them in a better manner. So don't sit with any preconceived notion that it will going to come from your favorite topics only. It will just like your RCs, it will be from a diverse topic. It can be from an art, music, culture, humanities, natural sciences, social sciences, anywhere. Okay, similarly, it will not going to have a proper structure. Like it is just, it can be like sentences can be picked up from anywhere in the passage. Okay, maybe a third paragraph, so not necessary that it will going to have a proper introduction, can be a combination of the two paragraphs, right? And plus you're going to see that there will be a lot of omissions and additions of a lot of the words by the question setters to trap you, right? So this is just a brief gyan about the parajumble. So I hope by this you're at least able to connect with this topic of parajumbles in an easy manner, right? So let's see now. Right now what happened, the next question is that how do we need to solve the questions on parajumbles ko karna kaise? Okay, so I would say I divide the basic strategy to solve the parajumbles in a four different pillars. So can anybody tell me what are these four different pillars, or let's forget about the four different pillars. Can anybody tell me which is the first pillar, or what aspect do you believe should be the first pillar of solving the parajumbles? So now you get an idea of parajumbles. The next thing that we're going to learn is how to solve them. So what should be the first thing whenever you got four sentences or five sentences in front of you? So what should be the first pillar that you need to focus on, or what should be the first thing that you need to do? Is the screen is blurred? Is the screen visible, guys? Is the screen blurred issue being sorted out? Okay, so Pankita is saying introduction. What about others? What should be the first pillar? Like whenever we get the questions on parajumbles, we should do this thing. Other than the introduction, is there anything else? Okay. Can anyone guess what could be the four pillars? All the four pillars. So introduction is one. Okay, so okay, tell me about the second one. So meanwhile, we are working on the blurred issue. Still blurred, okay. Okay, so Sam has written opening sentence. Okay. What else could be the another pillar of parajumbles? So one is opening, introductory, I keep it together. What is the second, third, fourth pillar there in that case? Come up, think. Okay. Any idea what is the second? Okay, so Sam is saying paired sentences. Okay, pair, I could say pair blocks, right? Okay. Conclusion, okay, maybe conclusion I'm going to keep it for on hold. So definitely yes, opening sentence is the one pillar. The second pillar is pair and blocks. What is the third one? Connection of sentences, Satvika, can we say that, can we keep it here in the pair and the blocks, right? Is it visible now? Better? Okay. Now let's go through all these four pillars more in detail. Right? So let's see. What is the slide is telling you? Can anybody tell it out, figure it out? क्या हो रहा है? So the first pillar, the very first pillar of Parajumbles. Why is the girl so irritated? And why the boy is so confused? So yes, Pankita, she's saying main idea, okay. But why the boy is confused? Come on. Right? So the girl is just saying अंधा है क्या? And the boy is like क्या concern दिखा रही है या फिर taunt मार रही है, right? So the very first thing what you need to do, what you understand from this slide, what should be the very first thing that whenever you got the four sentences in front of your screen, what should be the first thing that you need to focus on? Understand what I'm saying, try to understand the scenario. Superb cheshta, okay? So the very first pillar of the Parajumbles is basically to understand, okay? To understand the subject and a theme, right? And in fact, I would say, see, we need to understand a couple of things related to the Parajumbles. पहली बात, in a very first few slides we learn that there is a problem with the accuracy for the para jumbles. Okay, I hope you all know this, that para jumbles in a cat questions, it comes in a format of theta. So theta is basically type in the answer. So they don't give you the options like a b c d d c a b. So they don't do that, right? Rather they give you the space, and in the space whatever you believe is the sequence, you need to type in the answer. So definitely the accuracy here is challenging, because in case if the four sentences are given, then the probability of the correct answer is 1 by 24 anyhow, right? Secondly, the problem here is that by at the first glance of the reading of the para jumbles, in case if you're not able to figure out this subject and a theme, then I would say that maybe the para jumbles question is a skip for you at that point of the time. The reason again is that because you cannot spend, let's say, 5 to 6 minutes just solving the para jumble question where there is a gray area in terms of the accuracy. So the chances is that you believe that the answer is A, B, D, and the answer comes out to be A, C, B, D, right? So there is the problem. So the one advice that I want to give for the para jumbles is that do not spare more than 2 minutes on the questions of para jumbles. Okay, don't take it on your ego ki aaj main ya aaj tu. Okay, so don't do that when it comes to para jumbles. So 2 minutes, and in those initial 2 minutes that you're reading all the four sentences, in case अगर आपको यही नहीं समझ में आ रहा कि वो क्वेश्चन सेट ऑफ सेंटेंसेस में टॉन्ट मार रहा है या कंसर्न दिखा रहा है, दैट मीन्स दैट यू आर नॉट एबल टू फिगर आउट कि व्हाट इज द सब्जेक्ट, व्हाट इज द थीम, देन आई वुड से दैट मे बी दैट क्वेश्चन इज अ स्किप फॉर यू. यूटिलाइज योर दोस 2 minutes on the another VA questions. Okay, so that is the case. So the very first pillar of the para jumbles is to quickly read all the sentences. By quickly, I does not mean to say that you need to do a very speed reading. Okay, you need to read at your own pace, at your comfortable pace, where you are able to understand what the sentences are saying, right? So the very first thing starts with figure out कि sentences बात किसकी कर रहे हैं और sentences में बात क्या हो रही है. Okay, so whether the sentences are talking about Rabindranath Tagore or the sentences are talking about Shakespeare. Okay, whether the sentences are talking about, let's say, Amitabh Bachchan's career in Bollywood, or is he talking about his personality traits like his height and the other features, right? So this is the first thing that you need to figure out, because there will be a lot of the questions which can be solved on the para jumbles, that is on the basis of the understanding of the context. So अगर आपको context ही नहीं समझ में आएगा, and in case if you blindly apply the rules that we'll be learning in a couple of days, maybe you're going to create an error in this question of para jumble. So the first pillar, understand what is the subject, किसके बारे में बात हो रही है, and what is the theme, बात क्या हो रही है. Okay, now by this, let's say what could be the second pillar now. So once you have understood कि subject क्या है, so let me So, what did you understand? So, what is this Amitabh Bachchan is saying in this Sholay movie? Tone? Okay. So what is this? हम जहां से खड़े होते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है. So what is the second pillar that I'm hinting to? And what is this? This I think so. This image of a bottle opener is doing a terrific job of explaining you what could be the second pillar. So what is the second pillar of the? Of course, yes, Cheshta, yes, Anjali, yes. So the second pillar is basically the opening sentence. Okay. So once you have read all the sentences, the next thing for you and I would say that the comparatively easier thing for you in the case of the Parajumbles is to figure out which sentence could be the opening sentence. Okay. Now, opening sentence, and understand, no, in case if you're able to figure out the opening sentence, so that now you have the four possibilities of arranging the sentences, and you're able to figure out ki let's say A first sentence pe aayega, then anyhow now the task is half done. It's more than half done. Okay. Because now you need to arrange the remaining sentences in the 6 ways, and out of which the correct answer is 1. So the task of figuring out the opening sentences actually increases your accuracy to a threefold level, I would say, in that case, right? So now the case is पता कैसे चलेगा कि ये sentence opening sentence होगा? So बहुत easy है कि हम जहां से खड़े हो जाते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है, लेकिन ये कैसे पता चलेगा कि where I would going to stand? So what are some important features that will help me figure out that this could be the opening sentence? कैसे पता चलेगा? Yes, opening sentence, but पता कैसे चलेगा? How do we know that this sentence is an opening sentence? Are there important elements that can help me figure out which is the opening sentence? Okay. Okay, let me give you an idea in that case scenario. Right? So opening sentences, basically it actually introduces you to the idea or theme of the paragraph. Again, understand that the rules are there to help you, but that does not mean that the rules will be applicable to every question, each and every question. Okay, but yes, definitely that will these kinds of the rules will going to help you solve a lot many questions. Okay, the very first thing that how we'll be able to figure out that the sentence is an opening sentence is that the introductory sentence basically introduces you to the idea or theme of the paragraph. So पहले हमने पढ़ा, we get an idea सब्जेक्ट और थीम क्या है. So जिस सेंटेंस से हमें समझ में आता है कि अच्छा सब्जेक्ट और थीम ये है, so that means that sentence has a chance to be the opening sentence. Okay, the second is that the opening sentence is basically an independent sentence. Now what is this independent sentence? Is that when I'm writing Mohan is my favorite student, right? अब आप ये जाके किसी को बाहर भी बताओगे that मोहन is my favorite student, सबको समझ में आएगा कि मोहन is my favorite student, right? But when I'm writing the sentence, he is also good in sports, right? Now suppose you're telling this sentence to your friend that he is also good in sports, right? The next question that your friend will going to ask you is that he कौन also in sports है, मतलब इससे ज्यादा और किस चीज में वो good है? I hope you're getting this, right? So an introductory sentence is basically an independent sentence. The rest of the other sentences will be dependent on the opening sentence, but generally opening sentence can stand alone as a single sentence. Okay. The third thing is that it may have a subject or a noun of the theme. Okay. So it works sometimes, but the important element here is that it may talk of a general idea. Okay, so an opening sentence will be the most general sentence that you're going to read out of the remaining 3 sentences, right? So once you figured out this is the subject, this is the theme, the next pillar is to figure out the opening sentence. Okay, and understand figuring out the correct opening sentences almost brings you to the point where you believe that the Parajumbles is with the options, because then the probability of the correct answers anyhow slides from 6 probability to one, right? So that is the case. So understand, it introduces you to the subject or a theme. It will be an independent sentence and it will be the most general sentence that in comparison to the rest of the remaining sentence. So we'll do a very small exercise. I'm sharing a one question with you. So I want you to figure out the opening sentence here. I don't want you to rearrange the sentences. I'm giving you just a few minutes. I'm like just a minute, and after reading it, just figure out which sentence has the probability of being the correct answer. Okay, so Anjali is saying one. What about others? Quickly, quickly, just figure out the opening sentence and introductory sentence. Okay, Sam is saying fifth is the opening sentence. Nikhil is also saying fifth is an opening sentence. What about others? Quickly. So we got a lot of questions to practice. So I hope you will be okay. So fifth, right. Let's see this. Okay. So I told you that an introductory sentence will going to have a couple of features. It will going to introduce you to the subject or a theme. It will going to be an independent sentence and it will be the most general sentence. Okay. Now, can anybody tell me why one is not the opening sentence? So Anjali, you missed upon one component. So why one cannot be the opening sentence? Can anybody tell me this? So yes, the two cannot be the opening sentence because it has but and him. So they have dependency on some other. This sentence has a dependency on another sentence, right? Third, he acknowledges to, right? So a lot of dependency. Hoffman. So you can see here that the Michael Hoffman is a full name, whereas a Hoffman is a short name. Okay. So by the logic that we're going to put the full name first and then the short name. So fourth cannot be the opening sentence. So now that we are left with the first and a fifth. So why first cannot be the opening sentence? Okay, Sam. Yes, okay. Because what is written in the first is that he accepts this sorry fact. Okay. So this sorry fact, kaun sa sorry fact? Okay. Now, but when you see the fifth sentence, in terms of the gap between worth and rewards, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So you can see that this is the most general sentence because later on we are getting to the specific discussions of Michael Hoffman, right? But this is the general sentence. It actually introduces you to the subject and the theme. So after reading this sentence, we are able to understand that maybe the author is not happy about the translators and what are the kind of the nurses and the rewards and the appreciation that they are getting, right? And secondly, we can see that this sentence is an independent sentence because it can stand alone. In case if you go outside and narrate the sentence to someone else also, then also the sentence will going to convey a meaning to you. Okay. So the second most important pillar, figure out the opening sentence. Okay. Now let's see what is the third pair, right? So let's see here. What can you figure it out? What can you infer from this slide? So what is this slide telling you? What is the third pair? So what is the third pillar of Parajumbles? I got this cutesy picture. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So why is that the only yes, Satvika? Yes. Pairing of sentences. Excellent. Okay. You know, no one can separate us because we are a mandatory pair. Okay. So you call it as a mandatory pair, you call it as a block, you call it as a couple, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So once you know that you have read the subject and the theme, you know, let's say that the two will be the opening sentence. The next thing is बाकी सब में कैसे fit करना है, right? So for that we need the blocks and the pairs, okay? Something that is inseparable, something that will going to exist together or will going to come together, okay? Now let's understand these blocks or these pairs or these mandatory couples in a more detailed manner, okay? Now these are some of the most used pairs that you need to have an understanding before you get into this topic of parajumbles, okay? The very first is pronouns and their antecedents, okay? Now what is this pronouns and their antecedents is that whenever you're solving the questions on parajumbles, always highlight the pronouns that you have in the sentences, okay? And then look for the respective noun of that particular pronoun, right? So for example, for the previous sentence, Michael Hoffman accepts this sorry fact, okay? So this is a pronoun, and again understand, right, that when we talk about the pronouns, it is not just limited to he, she, they, we, us, this, that, those, these, okay? These are all the pronouns, okay? So always highlight the pronouns in the sentences and then look for uska respective noun kya hai, and this becomes easy, no? That pehle kya aayega? Pehle it has to be the noun and then the pronoun, okay? So this gives you an idea कि ये और ये sentence एक block है, एक pair है, and they will be placed together. Or in case if they're not placed together, it will give you a rough of an idea कि the sentence containing the noun will going to precede the sentence containing the pronoun. So very important, okay? And yes, this will be the one visible clue that will be there in a lot of questions to help you. But just remember that the pronouns are not just limited to he, she, they, okay? Her, his, their, our, my, mine, okay? So all of these are the pronouns, right? The second is the thumb rule that we always go from general to specific, okay? So again, understand that we don't give the specific information first and then we get into the general details. What we do is that we give the general information first and then we get into the specific details. So whenever in the confusion, when you believe that nothing is working, in case if you simply apply this rule of general to specific, then also you'll be able to figure out कि let's say 3 and 4 general sentences hai, 1 and 2 specific sentences hai. So you know that 3 and 4 by whatever the order, 4 3 hoga ya 3 4 hoga, but it will going to precede the sentence 1 2 or 2 1, okay? So that's the another case. Then you're going to find a lot of other structure based questions. For example, cause effect structure, problem and solution structure, right? And maybe you can call it as an idea and example structure, okay? So these kinds of the cases, right? Sometimes you can find a definition and its meaning. So these are also become a pair, okay? Not necessary that this should precede the previous one or something, but again, a sentence containing the cause and the respective effect will be placed together. Similarly, a sentence containing the problem and its respective solution will be placed together, right? The sentence containing the idea and the example of that idea will be placed together. The sentence containing the technical definition and something that elaborates on that definition or explain you that definition will be placed together, okay? And yes, question and answer also, right? But the case here is that we might not, okay, so let's say the sentence number 2 is giving you the cause, okay, whereas the sentence number 1 is giving you the effect. So one thing that you know by this pair is that the 2 and 1 will be placed together. हो सकता है कि वो 1 by 2 हो सकता है कि वो 2 by 1 होगा, but these two pairs will definitely going to come together, right? Now the next is words that indicate additional information. In fact, I would say that next to the pronouns and their antecedents, these are the words that are going to help you solve your parajumbles, okay? For example, the words like also, the words like moreover, the words like for example, okay? The words like in addition to, okay? Besides, right? So these are all the kind of the words that are actually giving you and, okay? So and is an important word. So these are giving you extra additional information. Now remember, Mohan is my favorite student. He is good in academics. He is also good in sports, right? So now you know that also is actually giving you an additional information about something that the author has already spoken about, right? So Mohan is good in academics, right? Now he is also good in sports. So you know that this is the B sentence, that the C will going to follow the B sentence because it is also giving an extra additional information to the B. Right? So this also helps you figure out कि let's say अगर ये सारे sentences positive है, in also और ये सारे words लगने से भी दूसरा sentence भी क्या होगा, positive, right? So it helps you also किस चीज का, okay? So पहले भी कोई अच्छी चीज है कि he is good in academics, he is also good in sports, so that means कि also will be put after your B sentence, okay? Now similarly to the words that indicate additional information, the words that indicate a contradiction also play a vital role, okay? For example, the words like but, however, in spite of, despite, even though, although, right? So this play a vital role again, right? Now what happened? Let's say I'm writing Mohan is my favorite student, he is good in academics, he is also good in sports, right? Now, but he needs to work on his interpersonal skill, right? He needs to work on his interpersonal skills, right? Now, are you able to understand that what are these words doing, right? So first of all, Mohan is my favorite student. He is good in academics. He is also good in sports. All positive sentences, okay? But when you put this sentence, but, what happened? Our thought actually reversed, okay? Now from talking about his positives, we are getting into the negatives, that he's good in sports, he's good in academics, he's my favorite student, but, okay? So after but, in case if we put all the positive sentences together and after putting the words that indicate a contradiction, the tone of the passage, the tone of the sentences changes to negative, and it can be vice versa also, okay? So पहले अगर negative बोला है और बाद में but लग गया है, तो उसके बाद में क्या हो जाएगा, दूसरे sentences क्या हो जाएंगे, positive, okay? So this helps you big time figuring out कि ये sentences साथ साथ में आएंगे because they have the additional information, they have the words that indicate additional information. After this, there will be a transition. After the putting of the contradictory words, there will be a transitions and the words will change into, or the tone will now change into positive or negative depending upon the remaining sentences, right? So ये ideal बता देंगे कि ABC pair है and ABC के बाद में DE pair है because ये negative की बात कर रहा है, ये positive की बात कर रहा है, okay? So just like pronouns, the words that indicate additional information and the words that indicate contradiction plays a vital role. So I hope you are able to cover it up, right? Yes, of course, this is हम साथ साथ हैं वाले couples है ना, अगर ये साथ नहीं होंगे तो Parajumbles कैसे बनेगा? So that is the case, right? Now the next is of course your keyword link and your echo words, okay? So sometimes you're not going to find all these clues and कई बार हमें लगेगा कि एक सेंटेंस में करप्शन की बात हो रही है, देन बी और सी में कुछ करप्शन की बात नहीं हो रही है, लेकिन डी में फिर से करप्शन की बात हो रही है. सो हो सकता है कि ए एंड डी, बिकॉज दे आर echoing the same words, they are echoing the same idea, they are echoing on the same topic, these two sentences can become a hum saath saath hai ka pair, okay? And the last but not the least is the question and an answer. So the question and the answer to that respective question is your one of the pair. The another pair could be your full form and abbreviation, right? So पहले full form आएगी और उसके बाद में उसका abbreviation आएगा, full name and short name, right? So these are some of the case, but we're going to learn them in the next of the slides. As of now, understand that these are the blocks. So whatever we have learned, the 4 pillars so far, the very first is of course understand what is the subject and what is the theme. The second is figure out which sentence is the introductory sentence. The third is look for hum saath saath hai ka pairs based on the rules that we just learned so far, okay? But again understand, in the case of the Parajumbles, some of the questions will be solved on the basis of these rules. Some of the questions will be solved properly only on the basis of understanding the logic in the sentences, okay? We'll be practicing it, so do not worry. Now let's understand which sentence is the fourth sentence, okay? So understand what is happening. Right? So, what did you see in this video? What could be the last and the fourth pillar of the Parajumble? What is happening in the video? And how many of you know which particular game was this? I mean, like when our viewers used to be the kid, we used to watch this. And what happened? So, क्या चल रहा था वीडियो में? It was a kind of maze. Yes. So इधर से entry, उधर से exit, इधर से किधर जाना है. So what is the last pillar of Parajumbles when it comes to cat? And not cat, in fact, Omax. Yes, it's Takeshi's castle. It's honeycomb maze, yes. But the game is actually the Takeshi's castle, yes. Right? So what was happening? What was the girl doing basically? Right? So the last pillar is anticipate. Okay, that is anticipate. Now the cat games finish when you anticipate. That is, you apply all the permutations and combinations. A के बाद B, B के बाद C, फिर D, नहीं नहीं, D, B, C, A. Okay, so all these things and you type in your answers. Okay, so that's the fourth pillar. That is your anticipation. That is your ability to make connect all the sentences so that they become a coherent paragraph. Okay, so let's just quickly revise all the four sentences that we have done so far. So we understand that the very first sentence or the first thing that you need to do when it comes to the parajumble is actually to figure out like what could be the subject or what could be the theme, right? The second pillar is to figure out what could be the introductory sentence. Okay, now once you have this introductory sentence, the next thing is to look for the pairs or couples or blocks. Okay, and the last thing is to anticipate with whatever the understanding. So you figure out that the B is the opening sentence. Now you know that A and C is a pair or C or A is a pair, but you're sure that the D is the concluding sentence, right? So play that Takeshi castles with whatever the combinations that you have and definitely come up with the correct answer. And I really assume that you come up with the correct answer, okay? Because 3 marks in the case of the cat VARC section plays a vital role, right? So this is all about the Gyan. Now with this, we'll be getting into the practice. So any doubts or any queries which you have right now in whatever the things that I've made you understood? So any queries, or else we get directly into the questions then in that case. So as I've told you that you're not supposed to spend too much of the time on the parajumbles question. So 2 minutes, so I'll not be giving you more than 2 minutes. So in 2 minutes, you need to frame the sentences. So try this. We have already done this, so you can do this question in a minute. Okay, I guess I've given you a good amount of the time. So what is the correct sequence? Okay, so I'm getting 51432 so far. So Utkarsh. Okay, what about others? Can we do this question now? So I've intentionally kept this question because this was one of the CAT questions. So it's a CAT previous year question, which has almost all the rules and the pairs that we discussed. So we have already figured out in our previous slides that the fifth is an opening sentence, right? So fifth is an opening, or let me just show you the next slide here, right? Which shows you the visible hints for this particular question, right? Now, what happened? We know that by the words that are being highlighted, that the fifth is the most general sentence that we have. So definitely, yes, fifth is the sentence that is the opening sentence. Now, what next? So in terms of the gap between worth and rewards, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So by this, we know that translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. Now, which sentence should be the next sentence? Yes, the first sentence. Yes. Now, why first? Because Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator. Now, can you see the echo words? Okay. So, we were talking about that the gap word translators, and we have the translators here. So, echo words. Okay. Similar sounding keywords. So, Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact. What is the sorry fact? Where is the sorry fact given? The sorry fact is being highlighted in fifth, right? That in terms of worth and rewards, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accept this sorry fact without approval or complaint. What next now? So a lot of you are saying 514. So fourth. So immediately after 5 and 1, you believe that the fourth should be the part. How many of you disagree that fourth should not be the part? So as of now, I've got all 51432, 51423. So I can see 51432 and 51423. Anybody who believes that the fourth should not be the third sentence but something else? Okay. How can the fourth be the third sentence? Okay. Can we see here that Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact? The tone is negative. The author is not happy. Okay. Now, in case if you read the fourth sentence, Hoffman feels passionately about his work, and this is clear from his writings. This sentence is positive, and without keeping those transition words like but, even though, although, in spite of, despite, right? How can you just transition like this? So one way you are saying that Michael Hoffman, a poet and a translator, accepts this sorry fact without approval or complaint, and then you see that the Hoffman feels passionately about his work. So there is, I mean, like, there needs to be a smooth transition. So now the next sentence, according to it, is third. He acknowledges too. He acknowledges too, right? टू मीन्स एडिशन पहले भी उसने कोई चीज एक्नॉलेज करी है पहले भी उसने कोई चीज एक्सेप्ट करी है सो पहले क्या चीज उसने एक्सेप्ट करी है ही एक्सेप्ट्स दिस सॉरी फैक्ट ओके एंड आफ्टर दैट he acknowledges too. Remember in the pairs I told you words that indicate a additional information, words that indicate a thought extension. Okay, so now he acknowledges too. In fact, he returns to the point often that the best translators of poetry always fail at some level. So again, a negative sentence, and that is what I was telling you when I was talking about the pairs, that you need to put all negative together and then keep a transition words and then shift the tone from negative to positive. So 513. Okay, now after 3 what should come? That is 2. And why 2 now? Because it has the thought reversal but. Okay, now the but has given us a chance that from negative we are now transitioning to positive, right? So far Michael Hoffman is not happy. Okay, he acknowledges that the best translators of poetry always fail at level, but thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him. Okay, just because of all these things does not stop him. Hoffman feels passionately about his work, which is a positive sentence, and this is clear from his writings. I hope now you got this thing, right? So this was one wonderful question, CAT previous year question. Why this was a wonderful question? Because a lot of language clues were there, right? So in case, I mean, like, logically to samajhna zaruri hai, but definitely this question, you can see how many of the words are being highlighted. Almost every sentence is giving you the visible clues about the arrangement. Did you get this? So 51324, yes, it's indeed Anubhuti was the correct answer. Did you get this? Can we move on to the next question? Any queries here? Okay, let's do another question now. So I'm just giving you 2 minutes, the exact time that you need to spend in your exams also. Not too much of the time to be utilized for Parajumbles. Okay, Pankita, so let's wait for others also to respond. Okay. So let's see this particular question and why intentionally I've given you this question. There is a case now for the previous question, in case if you know that there were a lot of language clues. Okay. Now this was the question which, other than that, maybe here was this, no, there was one line, you have experienced this collaborative filtering. Okay. Other than this, there was not much of the language clues that was present in this question, but still this was the question which was actually doable. Okay, with 100% accuracy, and I'm sure that a lot of the students will going to have it correct, which I can see it from your responses also, right? Now, this is the question which is done purely on the basis of the logic. So one advice that I want to give for the para jumbles is that don't get scared when you are not able to figure out कि pairs नहीं दिख रहा या वो नहीं समझ में आ रहा. So that means that this question is not doable. Okay, always remember the first pillar of the para jumble starts with understanding what is the subject and what is the theme and what are the sentences talking about, right? The correct sequence is definitely the fourth, and again remember the pair that is applicable here is the pair of an idea and example. Okay, so we are elaborating on the fourth sentences is talking about collaborative filtering is a mathematical algorithm by which correlations and co-occurrences of behaviors are tracked and then used to make recommendations. And the example of this is, if you have seen, so we can see that the 4 and a 1 is a block or a pair. So if you have seen a little line of a text on website that says something like customers who bought this also enjoyed that, you have experienced this collaborative filtering firsthand, right? Now, what is next now? So 4 and 1 is definitely a pair and in the same order, because 4th is giving you the idea and the 1 is explaining you the example. Plus, this is giving you the hint that the 4th should come first and then the first should come first. First should come after 4th, right? Now, the problem with these algorithms, now you're saying, right? Now, these were the general sentences. The 4 and 1 was a general sentences explaining you the concept of collaborative filtering, right? Now we are getting from general to specific details. The details is the problem with these algorithms is that they don't take into account a host of nuances and circumstances that might interfere with their accuracy. Now the two is getting into the specific detail, that is what are the problems with this. Now what is a problem? The example of the problem is being given in a 3. So 4 1 2 3 in the correct order is actually your answer, because the 4 1 general sentence, idea and example, and your 2 3 again a specific, but out of this the 2 is giving you the problem kya hai and the 3 is giving you the example. You bought a book for your cousin who loves gardening, but you are getting a host of recommendations for gardening books, but you hate gardening, right? So that is the case. So a doable question, of course, lot of logic. I hope you are able to understand, right? What are the language clues, what are the logical clues that can be there in the question. Okay, we'll solve two questions from the year CAT 2023 and let's see how we are able to delve into it, right? So maybe I'll skip this. Okay. Okay, try this question. I hope you all are solving this question. So how many of you are finding this question tricky? So I've given you easy questions. No? First, lot of clues were there. Let's see in case if we are able to do this question. Okay, so Sam is giving us 4132. Let's wait for others. So 4132 is a one possibility that I've got. Akshay also believes the same. Okay, so you don't know which question comes first. Okay, so yes, indeed, this was a tricky question. Now, I mean, like it came in the year 2023, so that was a tricky question. What makes this question tricky? See, again, understand what is happening here. The first glance, the understanding of the subject and a theme gives us that there is a one question and there is a statement, then there is a one question, then there is a statement, right? So how we can actually arrange these sentences, let's say दो तरीके हो सकते हैं ना, I mean like question one and then answer one, question two and then answer two, okay? Or else there can be a rhetorical question and we put both the questions one and two together, and after the analysis of both the questions, the author is giving us the answers or the explanation of those questions, right? So by any of this, the question and then answers can be arranged in this manner only, right? Now, हो सकता है कि पहले the question setter explains us an idea and then he asks some question and then he gives an example. So that could be the another possibility, right? Now let's read all the sentences. What precisely are the unusual elements that make a particular case so attractive to a certain kind of audience? Okay, Maybe this is talking about unusual elements that make a particular case. Okay, a particular case. So let's see. Okay, now it might be a particularly savage or unfathomable level of depravity. Very often it has something to do with the precise amount of mystery involved. Unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases offer something that ordinary mystery does not, right? Why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity, right? So maybe at the one glance of it, other than this, that it starts with it, right? And it talks about, the first question talks about a particular case, whereas the fourth talks about some crimes, okay? So that maybe that it is talking about a specific crime, and maybe this is giving me a general idea. So one thing that I can get it is that either 4 or 3 could be the opening sentence, but definitely not 1 and 2, right? So this is one visible clue that I can get from this question. Now, out of the 3 and a 4, let's decide what will come first, okay? So in case if you're writing unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases, offer something that ordinary mystery does not. So it's kind of making a comparison between unsolved cases and ordinary murder cases, right? Now, why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity? So in case if you quickly analyze these two sentences, right, you're gonna understand that the fourth is a more general sentence, okay? Why the fourth is a more general sentence is that because it is talking about why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examination and others locked into permanent obscurity. कि ऐसा क्यों होता है कि कुछ केसेस को तो हम बार बार री-एग्जामिन करते हैं and others locked into permanent obscurity, right? And then maybe unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases offer something that ordinary murder does not. So maybe it is kind of giving up the answer to this question, but in comparison to the 4 and a 3, definitely the fourth is the opening sentence. Can you figure out the another mandatory pair कि ये दोनों sentences block रहेंगे? So fourth is definitely the opening sentence that is being given by you other than Vijaya. But I hope, Vijaya, you're able to now understand that why one is not the opening sentence, right? Now, after 4, can you give me a pair or a block? So now in case if you quickly observe the 1 and a 2 sentence, right? So what is the one first question asking you? So the first is asking you, what precisely are the unusual elements, okay, that make a particular case so attractive to a certain kind of audience? So what are those unusual elements? The answer to those unusual elements are being given by 2, okay? It might be a particularly savage or unfathomable level of depravity. Very often it has something to do with the precise amount of mystery involved, okay? So what are those unusual elements कि वो savage or unfathomable हो सकता है, depravity हो सकती है उसको, nobody has put, let's say, consider that particular case, or there may be a mystery element in it, right? So that these are the unusual elements that make a particular case attractive to a certain kind of audience, right? So that brings to us the another block or a pair 1 and 2, right? Now the sequence could be 4, 3, 1, 2, or the sequence could be 4, 1, 2, 3, right? So by this logic, now the correct answer to this question is 4, 1, 2, 3, okay? Now why this question and why I've kept it intentionally? First of all, in case if you make mistakes in these kinds of the question, it's actually okay, okay? Now why it is actually okay is that because this is the one important learning that I want to give you for the Parajumbles is that in the case of the Parajumbles, you will going to find good question setters and you will going to find a bad question setters, okay? The good question setter wants you to spend the time on the Parajumbles and to get the correct answer, okay? The bad question setter wants you to waste your time on the questions of the Parajumbles, okay? And maybe let's say waste too much of the time on the questions of the Parajumbles and still stay with this regret that you weren't able to do this despite spending 5 minutes on it, okay? Now what makes a question setter good or a bad is this slide will going to help you understand, right? So this particular Parajumble was picked up from the Guardian, okay? The article name was True Crime unedifying business. Okay, so this was the article, and this was, I guess so, the fourth paragraph of the passage, right? Now what happened? You can see this. Why are some crimes destined for perpetual re-examinations and other locked into permanent obscurity? Okay, after that, the question setter miss on an important clue, which is and. Okay, in case if to the first question he would have written this extra additional information word and, this would have given us the clues that the fourth and a one will be placed together. Okay, but what he did is that he missed upon. Okay, so let's say, let me go back to the previous slide. So what he did is that, sorry, right? Yeah, okay, I'm messing up on this, right? So what he did is that he actually put this question as it is, but he missed the word and here. He missed the word and here. So what becomes was a confusing track for us to understand that this is talking about crimes, this is talking about a particular case, और 4 के बाद में 3 आएगा या 4 के बाद में 1 भी आ सकता है. अगर वो and लिख देता तो हमें पता चलता कि both of the questions are connected to each other, right? So this is what a bad question setter does. So don't get sad when you're not able to solve a couple of questions on the Parajumbles, because those are the setters in the paper where the question setter just wants you to spend your time. I would rather say that to waste your time, right? Now, secondly, you can say here that what he has done is that again he missed on the word but. Okay, but very often it has something to do with the precise amount of the mystery involved. Unsolved and perhaps unsolved cases offer something that ordinary murder does not, right? So one other important words but he skipped, and he totally make that para-jumbles questions not doable. In case if you were able to do it, you were able to connect that the 3 could be the concluding sentence, because it's kind of summarizing it. It's kind of giving us the answer that why some crimes are destined for perpetual re-examination is that because unsolved and perhaps unsolvable cases offer something that ordinary murder does not. But again, understand that in the case of the time constraint or your exam pressure, this was a question that I'm sure that you'll be able to do a mistake in this. Okay, but don't get sad. Okay, but in case if you missed upon the questions like this, by this will be finishing with our lecture. So I'll just give you a minute to solve this question. So again, a CAT 2023 question. Okay, Akshay, let's wait for others. Okay, Vijaya. Excellent, right? So, Sam, no, give me one possibility. No, you don't have the choice to give either this or that, right? See, you can see this. So, again, yeah, the correct sequence for this question is 3142, right? Now, why 3142? Because it has got a lot of visible clues, right? 31, so the sequence is 3, 1 and 4, 2. Now why 3, 1, 4, 2? Again, you can understand that this is the sentence which is an independent sentence. It actually introduces you to the subject and a theme, and it talks about that e-waste contains huge quantities of valuable metals, blah blah blah, and we do not have the way to salvage or recycle them, right? Then came Veena Sehjwala, a material scientist. So you can see the echo words, right? Material scientist, because we are talking about valuable metals, ceramics, and others. At the University of the North South Wales, believes that there is a new way of solving this problem. What problem? The problem that is being highlighted in a 3, right? Now she plans to build micro factories. So how can she solve this problem? That is by building micro factories that can tease apart the tangle of materials in mobile phones, computers, and other e-waste. Her vision is for automated drones and robots to pick out this. So very logical sentence and a very easy, right? Now I've got these two questions. So both the questions are from the year 2023 Parajumbles. Perhaps the Parajumbles wasn't a part of the year 2024, but then Odd One Out was not the part in the year 2022, but it made a re-entry in the year 2023, right? So this is how the verbal abilities of one section where there are a lot of permutations and combinations that are being played by the cat question setter, right? So the one thing that the point that I want to bring forward when we are doing the previous question or this question, good question setter and a bad question. So play a good question setter really well, okay? Don't make mistakes in these kinds of an easy questions in the case of Parajumbles. And don't sit with this preconceived notion कि Parajumbles to hoga nahi. This was an easy 3 marks, okay? In case I'm sure that the maximum number of the students will going to attempt this question will going to have this answer correct, okay? Don't waste or don't get upset about the previous questions that we have discussed. That is being intentionally said by the question setter just so that you waste your time to I would say to bring down or to lower your morale, okay? So that is the case. So strategize your para jumbles really well. Do not waste more than 2 minutes on the do not spend more than 2 minutes of the questions on the para jumble, more than 2 minutes on the questions of the para jumbles. Use all the tricks that we have learned, identifying the subject in a theme, introductory sentence, look for the pairs, play Takeshi castles with all the permutations and the combinations that you have drawn, and come up with the best anticipation that you have in your hand. I hope you had a immense learning session and you learned something. Hopefully, you learned something which will going to help you in your para jumbles questions at the time of your CAT exam. So all the best and see you next week.